to the Eagles Nest, where our motto is you may be in it, but you're coming out soaring. I am so excited tonight. I have a special guest in the Eagles Nest tonight. And we're going to be talking about a subject that I know a lot of times that as women, men too, that we've experienced in our life. And marriage is a good thing. You know, like we said, marriage is honorable in the Lord, and we understand that. But sometimes, even in being married, you wind up finding yourself in a place where you wind up going through a divorce. And so, even though your intentions were when you got married to stay married, life happens. And then you have to get to a place where you learn how to navigate through the loss of a marriage, and then at the same time navigate through I call it like a new normal. Yes. Of being single and being once married. So I'm excited tonight to have my guest here tonight. I'm not going to tell you who you are. Y'all know how I do it. I know who she is, but I'm going to let her introduce herself in her own way. So, my guest, hi there. Hello. Let the people know who you are.
I am Minister Kimberly Howard of Firehouse Church. Miss Sylvia is my cousin. Whoop, 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 whoop.
She's trying to be modest. She has a son named Gabe.
I'm a mother of one to a whole dude named Gabriel. He's a whole dude.
Yes, he is. He's a sweet dude, though. I still would look forward to it because he'll have somebody to play games with and do different things with. Because I always ask me, Mother, when you going to have another sibling so I can have a brother? I said, well, we don't know about all that. I think that time has spent. That time has spent. That's why you have friends now.
Friends and cousins.
Yes, friends and cousins. So, Miss Kim.
Yes, ma'am.
I know this may be maybe like a little sensitive subject to some people, because a lot of people don't like to talk about, the moment where they may have experienced a divorce in their life, and we know understand because not all divorces are, happy. We can't say that divorce is happy because it's like I said, it's not something that we
I don't think it's ever happy. Even when people say, "Oh, we agreed to it," I don't think it's ever a happy because it's a loss,
right?
And there's a separation, there's a cut, so you have to deal with the loss of a marriage, a relationship, a comfort zone, even because you kind of get used to it being the two,
right?
And so now you have to deal with being just yourself by yourself, even if you had gotten to the point in that marriage where you didn't want to be in the marriage anymore, it's still a loss. Right. So I don't think it can be a happy occasion,
right?
As much as you have to have a realization that the separation was necessary. So.
Because I know for, one thing that I experienced when I went through my divorce that I had, when I went through a program called Divorce Care. A lot of people, I don't know too many people, churches or different stuff around here that have that, but I went through a program that was entitled Divorce Care. And what they basically helped me to realize that I had to grieve it. Mm-hmm. Because, a lot of times we don't even think that that's something that you need to go through the stages of grief for, because you're just thinking, okay, I got divorced, I can pick myself up and I can move forward, I can continue my life. But like you said, even though it wasn't a death of a person, it was a death of a relationship, and you still go through those stages of grief. And my first stage, when I just couldn't believe this happened to me. I was like, where was the breakdown? Then you start questioning yourself and blaming yourself, like, what could I have done differently? What could I have done to help the marriage to stay together? But sometimes it may not even be nothing that you necessarily did, but at the same time, you still have to go through those stages of grief.
And for me, it was I I separated it in my mind because
Yeah.
for me it was my marriage was over before it was actually over.
Yeah.
And I can only speak for myself. I can't speak for my spouse, but for me, I had a moment where I said, I can't do this anymore. And I said, but I stayed in the marriage because of my son.
Right.
But for me, I had a point where I was like, I had one of my conversations with God, and I said, I'll be here, but I won't be here. And so there was, because for me there was a breakdown of communication, and I had gotten to the point where I was tired of trying to talk,
Right.
and I wasn't being heard.
Right.
So I said, I just won't talk anymore.
Right.
And so when when everything fell apart, because it was, you start going through the motions.
Right.
And I tell people now, when people say, "Oh, we're getting married," I'm like, that is so awesome.
Woo, woo, woo.
Great for you. Make sure you can marry the person that's in front of you, because I think a lot of times
that is a good point.
Because a lot of times people marry the potential, the expectations they see in a person. I say, make sure that the person that is in front of you right now, make sure that that's the person you can marry, and not what you think that they can become later.
Wow. Now that's a good one, because that's a lot of times what we do when we do marry. Even though I could say, for some people, you already know sometimes before you marry a person their flaws.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times you tell yourself, well, if we get married, that'll change.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't change. Hey, it doesn't change. And then you got to ask yourself, when you get into the marriage, it's like, can you deal with it when you see that it doesn't change? And for me, I could say, I don't really know probably what the breakdown my relationship and our marriage was, but I do know that we weren't ready. We were not ready to be married. We, in our minds, because we seen people around us that were getting married, and it looked like the thing to do, and we was. Sometimes I say we may have been in love, but sometimes I think it was more in lust. And so when the idea presented itself to get married, you're like, okay, yeah, let's do this. But then when your mindset is not on a marriage, then when one person's trying to be married and the other one is still trying to live a single life and trying to say that they're married, then there's going to be problems in the marriage, unless two people can still say, even though this is going on, because I married you, I'm willing to commit and work through this. But what you find out is sometimes you can't always work through.
And the other thing is, if the other person doesn't acknowledge there's a problem, right? And I feel like, on the other side, that was a lot of, because I felt like there were problems, and he didn't see any problems. Right. So if I'm the only one seeing issues, and I can't get you to hear me with the issues, then that's a problem. Mm-hmm. And so, it becomes a thing where, okay, this is what's going on. I present it to you, and you don't acknowledge it. Mm-hmm. So there's that as well. And because I think we were young. I was 23 when I got married, and
I was 22.
See, but and when you really think about it, you're like, that's not all that young, but it's kind of young. Yeah. Like you go out on your own, and we're gonna be together, and love is what's gonna make this work, and no. Yeah. Now I have to live with you and your dirty drawers. and like you said, when you see things about the other person that bother you, and you're like, well, that'll change, or I can change that, or I can grow. On the other side, I realized how much of myself that I cut off to accommodate him. Right. I cut off a lot of things. A lot of things I stopped doing because he didn't like it. Right. Or it made him uncomfortable. I toned myself down.
Yeah.
I toned myself down, and it's like on the other side, because when everything fell apart, I was so, and I didn't really, it's bad because I didn't realize how angry I was
Yeah.
at the situation.
Yeah.
Like, just, and how quickly he could trigger me
Right.
to that anger,
Right.
to that point of anger. And that's why I say divorce, separation, you have to go through the stages of grief, or you end up in a Lifetime Network movie,
Right.
with Vivica Fox playing the part, because I was so angry at him, and I was hurt, and I was angry at myself,
Right.
and I felt guilty. I felt like a failure because
Right.
I failed at this. This is because I went in with good intentions. The marriage to me is forever. This is forever. Then death do you part till we till the wheels fall off. We going down and I failed. And I thought, I thought I did everything right. I got married. I was a good wife. I thought I did all the things. I cooked. I hate cleaning. I'm not gonna act like I was a housekeeper. I hate cleaning. I do. But I cooked, and I was there, and I tried to be a support system. I tried to be loving and caring. And even when I had shut off in my mind, and I was like, I'm here, but I'm not here, I was still doing all of the things. And it wasn't enough. And I failed. And I felt rejected.
Yes.
And you don't really know me, and I don't really know you. Who are you?
Right.
And I told God, I said, I will never do this again. I'm not doing it again. I'm done. I'm done. This hurt because it hurt.
It hurt bad.
It hurt so, and it's that deep ache because you're wondering, like you said, what else could I've done? Or was there anything else I could have done? Maybe if I had of fill in the blank. What if I had have been here at this time? What if I had have changed if I had have changed something else about myself?
Right. And then you go through that process, like you said, you lose yourself. And then I got to the point, even in that, that's why I tell people, that's when I first went through my depression, because it took me to a place, because then I started looking at myself and questioning myself, was I good enough? Was I woman enough? Did I do, did I comb my hair the right way? Different things like that, because then it attacks it's almost like it attacked the woman in you, because you felt like I didn't do everything that I needed to do as a woman for my husband to feel like he needed to leave, or he needed to, walk out. And then a part of me got angry with God, and I was like, why did you allow me to get married only to take me through this heartache or this pain? Because it was excruciating. And I really, really, truly, I just lost myself. It was a period that I didn't even know myself. And even over the period of time, the years that passed by, because we separated before we actually got divorced. But even in the process of going through the separation, though, sometimes, I can tell people a lot of times when you're in church, the word sometimes can entrap you and enslave you, because I was telling myself I couldn't get a divorce. I had to reconcile with him, even though there were some times when I knew that this was over. But because the Bible says be reconciled, because the word says if you divorce, then you're committing adultery if you get into another relationship. So in my mind, even though I knew that this was over, because I did not want to feel like I was letting God down, I put myself in a position when I felt like I was chasing someone to look, we got to make this work, because this is what the Bible says.
And it's like, it's because I was, that time in my life that I said about a year and a half period where um, in my mind I call it where the illusion was shattered, because I was living the whole illusion. I had a lot of different masks. I had the mask that I wore at home.
Yes.
I had the mask that I wore at work. I
Mm-hmm.
had the mask that I wore around my family.
Right.
I had a lot of masks going on. And so when everything came out in the open, when everything came out, and we are still together,
Mm-hmm.
we're trying to make this work, and he's angry,
Right.
and so he's still throwing the accusations at me, and at that point I was dead inside. Yes. So I was numb, and I was just like, okay, so okay, so I'm not, I have no argument, I have no fight, and so, and I clear clear as day, God would tell me, you have to leave, and I would say, I can't leave. Mm-hmm. And God said, no, you have to leave, because I cannot allow you to kill what I have in you. And I said, how can you? Because this is when the calling on my life, this is when God was really pulling the calling out of me. Right. And He said, I can't allow you to kill it. And I said, how can you expect me to get up in front of people, and you want me to be divorced, and you want me to get up there and preach? I have to stay. I started using it. I have to stay in this. Yes. Because you can't have me get up there and preach to your people, and right. And I got all the you right. What will they say of me? Right. I have to stay in this. And I was trying to kill it. I was like, I can't leave. I can't leave, God. No, I can't do that. And I was like, and it's crazy because I tell people who I actually talked to it about, I was like, I've never, up until that point, I'd never seen God completely cut off provision.
Wow.
And I tell you this because up until I was working so crazy. I was working crazy because I needed the money, and I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be in the house.
So that kind of took your focus off of everything that was going on.
So I was working crazy hours. I could pick up overtime like that. I had done so much overtime. I worked at a call center. I had done so much overtime one year that they gave me, at Christmas time, they gave me an award for the most overtime.
Wow.
That's how much overtime I had worked. And the next person behind me to get overtime, they didn't even have half the overtime hours I had. That's how much I was working.
And see, that we was using work as a numbing.
Yes, it was numbing. It was getting me out. And so God, and I was like, I can't leave, God. And God said, you will no longer be able to take care of this house.
Wow.
And whereas before, I could pick up 2 or 3 hours before my shift was supposed to start. I could stay like 2 hours before. I couldn't get overtime.
Wow.
God could have there was not a day. Any day that I had off, I would usually work maybe 5 or 6 hours. A lot of overtime. I couldn't pick up any overtime.
Wow.
And I was like, and that was, God had never done that before. Like, even at my lowest, brokest point, I still had something. And I watched God completely cut it off.
Right.
And He was like, because you have to leave. Mm-hmm. And I said, and it finally got to the point for me where I said, I'm either going to leave, or I'm going to kill myself, or I'm going to kill him. I don't want to go to jail. And obviously, God's not going to let me die. So, yeah, let me leave. And I have my son. Yes. I have my son. I can't leave him behind. I can't leave that on him. And because I'm still numb. And it's like the waking up for me, because like I said, I cut off so much of myself, and I had numbed myself because, like I said, there was guilt, there was hurt, I was angry, and I was really suppressing the anger because I was like, I don't have the right to be angry.
Yeah.
I don't have the right to be angry because for my situation, I was the one in the wrong. So I feel like I don't have the right to be angry, so I can't be angry. His anger is justified to me. He has the right to be angry with me. I don't have the right to feel angry. And there need to be counseling classes for people going through divorce.
It does.
This because it is.
It does.
There's a stigma on it, and like I said, you feel like a failure.
You do.
You feel you. I. The one thing we should all be able to find the person and love them,
right,
and come together as one. We should be able to do this.
And for me, the hardest part was being in the church, getting divorced, because a lot of people, I don't know if you experienced this, but I did. When you go to a situation where your marriage fall apart, the people who still have their marriage looks down on you as if, oh, what did you do that your marriage is like whatever. I'm like, I'm thankful that you still have your marriage. Right. You still have your husband. But life can happen, and you don't know at what given point of time something may come to jeopardize whatever it is that you feel like you had. And I had to go to church with people, making comments behind my back. So, what do you think what God's saying about divorce? Different. I'm looking like, you don't know my situation. You don't know what happened. All you know is that, yes, I'm going through whatever I'm going through or whatever, but have you taken the time to just sit with me and pray with me? Mm-hmm. That's to see if I even have my mind.
Because it's the thought process of, because a lot of times when people do things like that, they're right on that edge themselves.
Right.
And it's hitting a little bit too close to home. And for me, because I don't have a wide circle of people to talk to. So nobody really knew what was going on for a long, because there was a period of separation. So for a long time, people didn't really know we weren't together.
Right.
So like people who knew both of us as a unit, they be like, and they run into me, they be like, well, how's, and I be like, he all right.
Right.
That's kind of a talk.
You had to put on the face.
Right. The mask goes up. He's all right. Because and I think that's, everybody is a step away from something.
Right.
And marriage is a wonderful thing. When you're married to the right person and y'all can grow together, that's a beautiful thing. I pray for people's marriages. But a lot of times people are right there. They're one miscommunication away. And that's important. If you can't talk to the person that you're in the house with every day,
right?
You can't speak to them. You can't tell them what's going on in your life. It opens the door for the infidelity or the other addictions to step in and take over. And like I said, it becomes a thing of, and when you begin to pick yourself apart,
right?
Because that's what you'll do. You'll pick yourself apart. You're like, well, what did I do wrong?
Right.
What more could I have done? Why didn't I do that? And it becomes a hindsight thing too. It's like, well, what could I? Well, if I had have been this, or if I had have been, and I played that part in my marriage. I was like, okay, I can do this. I can be this person. I can do it. I can. I couldn't.
Right.
I was horrible at being that person.
Right.
I couldn't. I was like, and I finally came to the realization, even if I did everything the way that he said he wanted it done, down to the T, there would still be a problem. It would still be an issue.
Because you dealing with their mindset.
Right.
You're dealing with whatever it is that's going on in their life. But when you're in the middle of it, you don't really see that. You don't really comprehend that. The only thing at that moment you're focusing in on is what could you have done to fix it, to change it, but not realize they're an individual person too. So it takes two people to really to work at something to make it work. So while I'm sitting here trying to do everything I'm trying to do, I'm not realizing in my mind that, hey, he's on the same page.
Right.
And so I'm like, I'm doing all I can to try to reconcile. But he's not in a place where he really wants to reconcile. Even though there was conversation, we tried, we did things to try to come back together, but it never really worked out to the point where we reconcile. And for me, the hardest part for me to was to be able to move on was because I never got closure. I never got the closure to understand what happened. Why did it happen? You know, what could have gone wrong? And so in my mind, because I didn't get the closure of it, I just kept going through the motion year after year after year after year of let's try to work this out. Let's go to counseling. Let's do this. Let's do this to fix it. Tell me what it is I need to do so we can work things out. But then when I got to the place where I said, finally got to the place and said, Sylvia, this is over. It was like nothing you do is going to change it. Nothing you do is going to change their mind. Nothing that you do is going to make the situation any different than what it is. It's time for you to pick yourself up and move forward. How long are you going to be in this place where you're going to let yourself be hurt upon hurt? And like you said earlier, rejected. Because you constantly being rejected. You constantly being rejected. So you never get in a place where that emotion is gone. Right. Because you constantly being rejected by this person that you're trying to love or that you want to be loved by, and they constantly letting you know that you're not the person that they want to be with, and so that is constantly still making you, you know, subjected to low self-esteem and all this kind of stuff, that are the things that I battle with the low self-esteem. Then I got to the point where for me not to even deal with it, I said, well, I said, Sylvia, I just basically, yeah, I did. I let myself go. You know, the weight came on. The not caring how I, you know, looked when I went out. The makeup came off. I said, well, maybe, you know, because at the time when I was married and different stuff, I had a nice shape. I kept my appearance and stuff up. And I said, well, maybe if I let that go, I won't attract no other person or whatever, and I can deal with whatever. But the only thing that was doing, it was further hurting me and keeping me suicidal, depressed. They thought I with their life. And I'm sitting here trying to pick up the pieces and trying to figure out what can I have done. And it wasn't until I finally got to the place where I think I had went to a lady that I was in church with, and she told me, she said, Sim, because we at the time we wasn't in a place where neither one of us was really going to church. I was going to church, but I was going to church, but I wasn't going to church. And so, you know, that he wasn't really in the church. And she told me, she said, and then I got into the Lord. She said, she took me to the scripture, and she told me, when an unbeliever leaves, you're not bound. But because I had used the word as a crutch for so long, I still didn't realize that was free in me. And I was like, no, that's not what that means. You know, that's, and, you know, even though that was what it meant, I was like, no, that's not what that is saying. You know, I gotta make sure that I reconcile this, because if I don't reconcile this, like you were saying, I can't minister. That's probably the reason why I ran from my calling for so long, because of the simple fact I felt like I was not worthy to preach the word, to stand before people, to minister when I'm dealing with having gone through divorce and everything. I said, well, how people gonna look at me? I said, I don't want nobody looking at me because I had to go through a divorce. But then that's when God allowed me to go to the story with the woman at the well. That's how I knew He had called me, because He told me when I went through that scripture, and I was like, and I just sat there. And I just sat there. And he did it. And when the part when he said, when he freed her, now he said, now go tell. And I was like, but I don't want to go tell. I'm thankful you freed me, but I don't want to go tell. I don't want to go tell. I said, because people are so cruel. I was like, I don't want to go tell. I don't want that judgment of people judging me because they're looking at the fact that I was married, now I'm divorced, and I'm trying to tell somebody else how to do or whatever. But then God was like, that's not for you to worry about. I told you go tell. And I'm like, okay, God. All right, God. At some point in time, I go tell, but I'm not ready to go tell. And so, like you said, you go through all these different events until God finally gets you to the place. You either go tell, or you're going to continue to go through this. Right. Or you're going to continue to experience this. And so the question I had to ask myself, do I want to continue to go through this, or do I want to just go and tell? So guess what I did? I'm going to tell. And so that's what the place that I'm in right now.
Like, for me, the hardest part was letting go of the anger.
Right.
I was angry, and it wasn't, I felt like I took all the blame onto myself.
Right.
So I was angry. I was very, very angry at me. And I had internalized that. And um this wonderful woman, Beth Sharp, I love that woman to death.
Oh, I love her ministry.
I love her to death.
Oh, she has a good ministry.
And she helped me to see that there were other parties involved.
Right.
So that helped me. Okay, so now I can release the anger to them, but now I'm angry at all of the other parties involved. And it was getting to the point where I could let go of the anger, where I could, because when I'm still holding on to the anger, I'm easily triggered.
Yes.
So now I feel like I have to defend myself over every little thing.
Yes.
And I had to sit down and I had to say, why? Why do I allow him to trigger me?
Yes.
Because all I can do is apologize and be sincere with it. That's all I can do. And it is not up to me whether or not he accepts the apology or forgives me. That's not up to me. That's up to him. He has to do that. I can't hold on to the anger,
right,
because that's not hurting him. It's hurting me, and it's stalling me. It's keeping me in a place, and it's not a healthy place. So the hardest part for me was to let go of the anger. Once I did let go of the anger, and once I really let it go, because I was like, okay, I've let it go, but I hadn't. So once I really let the anger go, and I started grieving, and that's really the best way to say it. I started grieving,
right,
because even though it wasn't the best marriage and there were problems, there were good times.
Right.
We had good times together. We had moments together.
Right.
There were things that were good.
Right.
There were times that were great. And I lost that.
Right. You still have the memories.
Right. I lost so much. And I had to grieve that. I had to grieve a relationship because I known him for so long.
Right.
So I have to grieve that. And I had to get to the place where I could laugh with him again.
Right.
Because we have a child together. We are raising a child together, separately but together.
Right.
So I can't afford to hate you.
Right.
Because I don't want that to reflect on our son.
Right.
I want him to have the best of both of us.
Right.
So I had to get to the place where I was like, he's gonna be who he is. That's it. All day, every day. He gonna be who he is. And whether or not he accepts it or not, I'm gonna have to be who I am.
Right.
And that's when I started flicking switches. Things started turning back on, and it was a slow process, because, and it's one of those things where I didn't realize how much of myself I had cut off.
Right.
How much of myself I had dimmed down.
Right.
Turned,
right.
shaded over,
right.
cover up to make him comfortable. And I had to start turning these things back on. I was like, oh, I forgot I like to do that.
Right. And so now, after divorce is, being and gone, you're in a place where you're trying to find yourself again. But even when you was talking a few minutes ago about the anger, did you at any point were you ever angry at God?
I was angry at God, but I guess I was angry at God for not stopping me, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
Like, why I will weep. Why you didn't stop me?
You knew that this was going to happen.
You knew I was going to do this. You knew it. You saw me, and you could have stopped me.
Oh, yeah.
Forget the free will.
Yeah.
I didn't need it in that moment. Why?
Yes.
That's where my anger with God was. I was angry at God because He wouldn't let me die. And I can laugh at it now, but in my moments where I wanted to die, in my suicidal moments, I was angry because God was, because, and these are some of the times I heard God the clearest, like clear as day. He was like, it's not gonna work. I was like, but I'm tired.
Yeah.
I was tired. I was tired. It was, everything was, there was, all I could see were the shattered pieces. And I'm tired. I don't want to do this anymore. And I was watching something the other day and I was like, talk to the people around you who may be suicidal. If they have a plan, you need to talk to them. I'm like, ooh, I had a plan.
Yeah.
I had several different plans. I had it set up. I knew how I was going to do it. I knew when I was going to do it so that my son wouldn't be the one to find me. I knew exactly how I was going to do it. And God told me it's not going to work. And I was like, but it has to work because I'm tired.
Yeah.
I'm done. I'm done. I can't anymore. He's like, it's not going to work. So that my anger was, you won't let me die. And I'm done. I'm tired. I can't do it no more. I can't keep putting on these masks. Like, they too heavy now.
Yeah.
They don't even fit no more. They don't fit right. I don't know how people don't know that I'm not falling apart. Like, I don't know how people don't realize that I'm like a whole shadow over here. Like, I don't know how people don't see it. I thank God for the people he had in my life at that time that kept me shored up, that were there, because without them, I wouldn't have made it.
Right.
I wouldn't be here today. And my car, I would have, because my car was that was my sanctuary. My car was my sanctuary. Right. And I would sit in my car and I would talk to God. I was like, I can't do this anymore. Yeah. And he was like, okay, I told you to leave, but God, I can't leave. Yeah, you can. But God, what about this and what about that? You already turned it, and he would tell me, you already turned it over to me, so let me take care of it.
Right.
But I don't know how to take my hands off of it. All you gotta do is let go. I'd rather you just let me kill myself.
Yeah.
No, not today, because I need you. And that what God kept telling me. He needed me, and my answer was, I don't see how I can be of service to you.
Yeah, because all we could see was the divorce.
Right. All I could see were the mistakes and the failures, and my tally column. I was not winning. I was not winning. This is not a life well lived. I tell people now, say, don't ever tell God that you don't have a testimony. That is not a mistake you ever want to make.
No, it's not.
Because he will give you one.
No, it's not.
And you won't like the cross that he gonna give you to carry.
No,
so don't ever say that.
No, it's not. It's not.
No. So, and like I said, I can look back now and I can see better. And I thank God, for that growth. I think, and I thank God for it, because that was my 30s decade was not a good decade. That was a rough patch. It was a rough patch.
Yes.
Lord, it was. But it got me to a place where I understand how to go to God, because it was like at the roughest times, and I was like you, I was in the church, but I wasn't in the church.
Right.
And so, people like, you have to pray for your spouse. And I'd be, and I was, and that's the thing, I would be sitting there,
pray for him.
And I was sitting there, and I'd be sitting there listening to them. I'm like, I don't even like him today. I don't want to pray for him.
Yeah.
You have to pray for your marriage. I don't even know if I want to be married right now.
I'm like, I'm trying to pray for me. You trying to pray for him?
I don't even know how to pray for me. I don't know how to pray for myself. I'm gonna pray for him. I don't know. And it was so many. It was like, come to church with me, and I get them. They're like the CME, Christmas, Easter, Mother's Day, certain days, but it got me to a place where now I know how to pray.
Yes.
If I don't know, if I can't do nothing else, I can pray.
Yes.
If my prayer ain't nothing but a Jesus.
Yes.
Jesus.
Yes.
Come in the room, Jesus.
We know how to know red hot prayers.
Right. I know how to lay. I know how to lay prostrate and stay there.
Yes.
I know when there is a shift, I can feel an atmosphere shift.
But also the thing that this helped us too, because a lot of times people don't realize it. You can recognize when someone else is going through it, even though they may say, "Well, I'm good," but because of the simple fact that we've been through that,
yes,
we can say, "Oh no, you're not good,"
and that is true, because you could be like, I know that.
Yes,
I know that because that was me.
I've been in that place.
I know where you are right now, but you're not ready to hear anything. But when you are, I got you. But I'm in it. That is such a true thing, because it's like
you can see it.
I can see it now.
And you can see through the smile. You can see through the yes, I'm okay, and everything is good, and you're sitting there like, no, you're not.
That's the lie I told.
No, you're not.
And I thought I told it good, but my eyes were dead.
Yay. Yeah. And that's when I had a conversation with a young lady who was going through, and I sat her down one day and I said, "You remind me of me." And she looked at me. I said, "You remind me of me." And like you said about the working, I said, in order for me not to deal with anything, I kept myself busy. I said, because if I sat still too long, the thoughts, so as not to have to deal with the thoughts, not to have to deal with any type of emotion, let me keep myself busy. Let me go over and do this. Let me go over and do that. Let me go over and do that. And then it got to the point that like I said, I even got lost in that. And I was like, I had to tell myself one time, Sylvia, just stop. I sat down and I literally in my mind, I heard myself say, it was loud, stop. And when I heard that, it was just like I looked like, and everything just came crashing down. And at that moment, I think that's when I got the best release that I need. And it's probably the first time I probably really had a hard cry. I cried, but that was the first time like I had one of those soul wrenching cries. Yeah. It was so intense. And then after that, it was like, okay, I'm ready now. It was almost like I'm ready for the world. I'm ready to go out. I'm ready to do. And, you still go through those moments. It's not something that goes away just because you say you don't prayed and you don't did everything. I still have my moments. Because I still say, I wonder, sometimes I wonder where, sometimes when people have their anniversaries, and I'll be like, I calculated in my head, I was like, this would have been my so and so anniversary, or whatever, different stuff like that. But at the same time, like you said, I'm thankful for the journey because of the simple fact of the matter. It could have been worse. The situations could have been worse, because some people do have the end of it that is worse. They don't survive it, or the way you want to say it. But the thing of it is, God allowed us to walk through, and while we were walking through, He was there with us, letting us know that He had a greater purpose. And even in our pain, even in our disappointment, even in the times when we felt like we was a failure, God was still letting us know, no, I still have a purpose for you. I still have a calling. I still have a ministry. There's still something that I need you to do. Whether you see yourself as flawed, whether you see yourself as marred, whether you see yourself as unworthy, I still have, like you said, I still have need. Yay! I still have need of you. Right. And so that in itself was the thing that kind of helps me to go through what I go through now, even with doing the ministry now, and life and everything, is the fact that God let me know that in all of the pain, in all of the disappointment and everything, He still needs me. Right. And He wants to use me. Right. That's the thing. He wants to use me.
No matter how much I call that into question, He wants to use me. I'm like, you sure?
Yeah, He wants to use us. And it doesn't
Sure.
matter that it doesn't matter that we went through the divorce.
Right.
He know we went through it,
Right.
but he
was
still
there,
wants
but
to use
still,
us.
for real, God.
Yes.
Really. I it's like because people like how I'm like I'm dating. I was like I know if I don't know anything else, I know what I don't want. So
Right.
so if I learn nothing else, I know what I don't want. I may not be sure what I want, but I definitely know what I don't want.
Right.
I see the signs, I leave it alone. Like, you know what? We cool. Have a good day. Have a great life. Wish you well. And just navigating life and learning who I was as a single person, just me, just Kimberly.
Right.
Not Kimberly Ann, but just Kimberly. Right. And finding her.
Right.
At on the other side of separation and divorce and at that age.
Right.
Because I'm a whole different person than I was at 23.
Right. Right.
I'm a whole different person.
Different mindset,
different everything. So discovering who she is.
Has it been a nice journey now?
Oh, it has. She's fun.
Yeah.
I kind of like her.
She loves to laugh.
And learning to like myself again.
Right.
Because like I said, I was angry at myself for so long. But even before that, I didn't like myself. I really didn't like myself.
And if you don't like yourself, how can other people like you?
And it was like I didn't like myself. There were things about me I didn't like. I didn't like Kimberly. I didn't like her. And so on this side, finding her.
Yes.
Getting to know her.
Yes. Falling in love with her.
Right. Who knew?
Who knew? Yes.
She and that's like people don't, and that's I think a lot of times when you go through a traumatic experience, like because it can be traumatizing. It is, and you don't realize it because a lot of people just jump right into a new relationship and dive into the dating scene and all of that hoopla. But honey, to get to know you,
I learned that I like to listen to classical music.
Right.
I learned that I just like laughing. I learned that I just like being around people without having to feel like I have to be the social butterfly. It's just the thing that I found out. I just like to get a good book and just sit and just to read
and to find those things out without the pressure.
Right.
And I think a lot of times, because you just feel like you've been, even though you may have been together and you weren't really together, but you always had somebody else there, and there was always a second part, and people jump back in. But to get to know yourself, and I don't have to do this anymore because that's what they liked, and I didn't really like it, but I made it work. Mm-hmm. But now look at me, I'm gonna do this, and I can go out.
I'm not gonna make the bed today.
or I'm gonna go to this restaurant by myself. Yes, I am. And it's just little things like that. Learning myself on this side.
Yes.
And then for me, it was also picking up the things I had left behind.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Oh, the little things.
Yes.
I told you the other day, I find myself singing again. I had stopped. And I realized, like cutting off a mockingbird, I had stopped singing.
Yeah.
And I annoy Gabe to death because I will turn my music on in the car and I will sing loudly.
Like you found your voice.
And proudly, and sometimes off key. In the car, I will sing. And he will just look at me and I'm like, sing along. Sing along.
It's just like you found your voice.
And that's what it is. And that is the most amazing part for me. Is I found me again,
Yes.
and it took because excuse me, even I stayed dormant. I won't say dead because I wasn't dead, but I was dormant. I just, I said, I'm gonna stay in here. I'm gonna stay in the background. Gonna be quiet. Not gonna say anything. I'ma just be still. La la la.
And God said, no, ma'am.
And he threw me under the bus. But and I stayed dormant for so long, and because I didn't want to. I don't want to deal with the emotions. I don't, because once you let go of the anger, you have to deal with the other stuff. So there's the grief, and there's the hurt, and there's the other stuff, and I didn't really want to deal with it because that's a lot. That's a lot. I didn't want to, and I probably should still go see a therapist. But I didn't want to deal, so I'm gonna be dormant over here. I'm gonna participate when I need to. I'm gonna, you know, take little forays out into the world, and then I'm gonna come back to my little comfy zone, and I'm gonna be over here. But I couldn't stay there.
Right.
Because that wasn't comfortable anymore.
Right. So he, like the
Right.
eagle,
Right. I gotta go.
he made the nest uncomfortable.
Right.
And he's like, now, I need you to get out of this now. And then that's the thing, that's the beauty of it. He let us wallow in it for as long as he said, you okay, I'm just gonna let her have my mama right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he's like, okay, now we're done. It's time for you to get yourself up, pick yourself up, dust yourself off. It happened.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's time for you to pick yourself up, dust yourself off. And how we always say, put your crown back on your head. Because now it's
you
time.
Hold your head up, put your crown in
It's not,
position.
now I have work for you to do. Because there's going to be someone who's going to come along that's going to need to hear, that's going to need to know that there's another side.
Right.
And now what I want you to do, because that's what this is about. You was in that nest, but now you don't got your wings,
Right.
and you're flying out of it.
I never thought I'd talk about this. Yeah. It happened. I don't have to talk about it, but I realized that it could help someone.
Yeah.
Because there's you get a lot of classes, but nobody talks about this because they don't connect it with grief.
Right.
They don't. It's not. They don't connect it with everything, and it is because there's a loss. There's a death. There's a severing of, and no matter how long you were together, whether it was a few months or 20 years, you lose someone.
Because you still commit. You still form a soul tie.
Right.
You still created a covenant.
Right.
And that hurts when it breaks. It doesn't matter. It hurts when it breaks. And that's why I said I was thankful for divorce care. Because like I said, if divorce care had not been in the place where it was when I went through it, I don't know really, to be honest with you, I don't know where I would have been. Because like you said, we don't talk about it. We don't reach out to someone who's gone through a divorce to encourage them, to lift them up and different stuff, but lead them to navigate on their own.
Right.
Find your way the best way you know how. But having someone that is able to take you through it, to walk you through it, to let you know that, hey, it's going to be okay. You grieve, you go through whatever you need to go through, but there is going to come a time where you will find yourself again. You will find your voice again. You will be able to do what it is that God has purpose for you to do, even with the divorce. Because God knew the divorce was going to come.
Right.
He knew that we would be in that place, but he also knew that today was going to be here.
Right.
Even though we didn't know
right.
that today was going to be here, and we would be able to sit here and talk about something that was so painful and almost debilitating. But he knew that at this moment, Sylvia and Kimberly will sit down and have a conversation that's gonna go out to whosoever will watch it, to whosoever will listen to it, and at some point in time when we go on, there may be somebody who's going through that will come across it, and we have put that seed out there. We have put that word out there that's gonna be an encouragement to someone that just because you got a divorce, you're not damaged, you're not broken, you're not a person that God cannot use. God still wants to use you even in your divorce. And so, Kim, take a moment and just in your own way, just minister to someone, talk to someone in your own way, however way God gives it to you, to minister to some woman, some man, because men go through it too, to let them know that even though you happen to get a divorce, it's not the end. In your own way.
Just remember that there was purpose in it. That the love that started the marriage, it will turn into something else. Even if this is the end of a marriage, that love didn't die. That love still had a purpose. There was a purpose in it for you. There's a lesson that you have to learn. And on the other side of the hurt, on the other side of the pain, on the other side of the bitterness, there is more.
Yes.
So don't get stuck and stay in that hurt place. That's a transition. But be willing to move on and be willing to forgive not only yourself but your partner. Be willing to forgive so that you can let go.
And so tonight we just wanted to just, share. It's not to say that this was easy for us to sit down and talk about discuss this subject matter, but we both knew that we made it through, and we wanted to sit and just share some things, to help someone else that may come through. And I just hope and pray that something that was said this evening will be an encouragement to someone who's in the middle of divorce, thinking you're heading toward divorce, and you went through divorce, and you're just at a place asking yourself the question, can God use me? Yes, God can use you, and God wants to use you. And so I thank you, Minister Kimberly Howard, for coming into the Eagles Nest on tonight, because like I said, you may be in it, but you're coming out soaring. So until the next time, bye-bye.